We still don't know what's going on with Thomas Castellanos, but how important is he going to be for this upcoming Virginia game?
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. We're on to Virginia now. Boston College sits at 4-1, and the biggest question heading into this week is the health and status of Thomas Castellanos. We don't know what's going on here. We will find out hopefully soon. But how important is he going to be for BC to potentially win? We'll talk about that. Second part, I'm going to continue talking about that offense. I'm starting to get a little worried about their ability to score. We'll look at some metrics, see if this is something that we should really be concerned about 5 games into the season. And we'll do a little dive into what Virginia is all about. We'll talk about them and what kind of challenge they're going to bring in our final segment. So right now, I'm recording this on a Monday. BC will have their Tuesday practice along with media availability on Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll find out something about Thomas Castellanos. Tommy did not play, obviously, against Western Kentucky. And Grayson James, credit to him, he won the game for BC. You know, James had a decent game. He got much better as the game went along and finished the game going 19 for 32 for 168 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But clearly, again, there's not a knock on Grayson James. The offense is very different with Tommy Castellanos. Like, you need him out there if you're going to win some games. So his health for this upcoming game against the Hoos, it's critical because you look at the Vegas line or FanDuel line right now, and it's +4 for UVA. It actually started at +2 when it's pushed up. That would mean Vegas, you would even think Vegas knows something, or just fans are just pumping that they think that, or bettors are pumping that they think that Castellanos is going to be out. We don't know anything yet. And there's no buzz about it, and it's going to be quiet. And I think what's also important to understand, too, is that there's a potential that tomorrow at practice, the media is going to be sworn to secrecy again, which I know you guys hate, by the staff. This might be one of those things that you have to keep it quiet from, like Fort Knox. And if you're a Boston College fan, I get your frustrations, but also think of it this way. If they already know what's going to happen, they don't want to get it out, it's actually an advantage for Boston College to not release any of that. So if that's the case, they may do that. They also may just be open about it. My hope is that Tommy Castellanos can play. You need the legs that he has. And I mean, let's just be honest. The way he throws the ball was better than Grayson James. It was only Grayson James's first, Power 5 outing. This is his first game he ever played in the Power 5. And, his statistics, you just look at the difference between what he does and Castellanos does. Average yards per attempt for Grayson James, 5.3. Average yards per attempt for Tommy Castellanos, 10.4. Castellanos was almost doubling the amount of yards per throw that Grayson James was doing. So that tells you, he's a little bit more dangerous downfield. We know that. And then you add in his legs, which clearly it was a big difference, right? James he's trying to, this is a kid that's just learning, this offense and getting out there for his first attempts at being the quarterback. And it took him a while. And even at the end, the third quarter, he still looked pretty shaky. He couldn't run the ball as well either. I honestly thought watching James this summer that he'd be able to run the ball better than he did. Everything he was doing, and it could have just been the way Western Kentucky was blitzing him, because they were blitzing like crazy. I think Mitch said on yesterday's show, it's like 65% of the plays that he went back to pass, he got blitzed. That's tough. But you know what? You could say it's Western Kentucky, but if James has to go again, you know that they're going to do the same thing. This is a copycat sport, right? Virginia's going to see that and go, we're going to do the same thing, because that seemed to get him rattled a little bit. So when we're watching this, when we see what's going on, this is stuff that could translate into other games. I look at what Castellanos can do in this offense and what they can build. They need it for this game. They need Castellanos' arm. They need his leadership, and honestly, James did what he needed to do and he won that game. But you bring Castellanos in to this next game and you make yourself a favorite again. He is a calm and steady force out there on offense. He limits mistakes and he can move the ball. We didn't see a ton, and I think they designed the plays a little bit, the offense a little different for James. You saw Tommy when he gets the ball. Sometimes he can put together drives that just go on forever, and I think those kinds of drives are going to be super good against super effective. Against a team like Virginia. You don't want to let Virginia's offense just get going because they've got some good weapons. We'll explain that in a little bit. But you want to see BC's offense move the sticks more than they did. The going into halftime last week, I want to say they had like 130 yards or something like that. You can't do that. And Castellanos is going to be key there. And for folks that are asking me, do I know anything? I don't know. And is one thing that's super important to know about BC, and I think a lot of schools, is that they guard injury news like it's gold. And media members, you got to be careful with it. So there's not much I can go off of right now unless they go, and I got my fingers crossed. I got my fingers and my toes crossed that maybe we'll get some information tomorrow that we'll find out, hey, he's going to be ready to go. We're hoping he's going to be ready to go. That's more likely what we're going to hear. I bet you. If I was a betting man, I think one of two things is going to happen. I would think that if they know and the media is allowed to watch the practice, they're going to keep them quiet about it. That would be one thing. But the other one, we saw it with Halfley too. It's going to be that cagey thing where he's like, "Yeah, I think he's going to be able to go. We're hoping." That's probably more what's going to happen. But I can't wait. I think you guys are probably as excited as me to figure out what's going on with this thing, because BC is going to be a different beast with Castellanos back there. You need him back and healthy for this stretch against the ACC. It's going to be super important. Now, in our second segment, let's talk about the offense in general. I'm going to look at some stats, talk to you about why they're not doing what they need to do, and there's been some factors that have impacted them, but they've got to do better. We'll get into all that in just a moment. It's time to highlight my Roy Player of the Week. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code LOCKEDON, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary, is void where prohibited. This week we've selected, is there anyone else? It's Donovan Ezeiruaku. Donovan Ezeiruaku had 14 tackles, 3 sacks, a stripped fumble that cost Western Kentucky the game, and he was just named ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week, and he's going to be my Roy Player of the Week. That's why I'm giving Donovan Ezeiruaku $100 on Roy. If you were impressed as we were with his performance on Saturday, you could show him some love too. Just hop on Roy and throw in a few bucks. If everyone pitches in just $10, it adds up fast for Ezeiruaku. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation for Ezeiruaku and his standout performance this week, as well as what he continues to bring to your program. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. This is Locked On Boston College AJ Black. If you have not already done so, I know you guys are enjoying all these new videos. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Boston, the postcast from every game I put up there. It's a different channel. I know that's kind of a pain, but you should see the difference between our podcast and everyone else. The Red Sox postcast, they get a couple hits here. We're averaging like 10 to 12 times more than everyone else on that channel. So let's make it 20 times. Head over to Locked On Boston, and after that UVA game, I'll be going live there as well. Now, question that folks have been having, and I think it's valid, is starting to worry about this offense. It just hasn't clicked yet. Like, if you were to ask me, other than some big plays from Thomas Castellanos and a bunch of broken plays against Missouri, what is Boston call in Duquesne? But you got to throw those all out with the bathwater. What is BC's offense? What would you call their identity? They run the ball, but they're 90th, like not 90th, they're 60th in the country in rushing yards. They don't pass the ball. They're 103rd in passing. And in terms of scoring offense, they're not doing that great either. Their scoring offense is near, I just saw it, 66th in the country. And you take out Duquesne, and I'm sure it tanks even more. So the offense is not doing what it has to do. It's gonna, which is put up points and do it consistently. You know, you've seen 2 games in a row where BC's offense kind of farted around for a whole half, and then it took till the second half for them to actually start to do anything. But what do we need to see better? Obviously, the quarterback play is going to be better. When you're passing and not being able to pass the ball like they have been the last couple of weeks, it's going to impact you. I go back to, there's been a series of different types of plays that just are not working for Boston College. The screen passes are awful. I don't know what it is about the design of the screen passes. That's a Mitch Wolf question. He was here yesterday. But whatever they're doing on those screen passes are just not working, because every time it's like a screen, and like you look at Jaden McGowan, for instance, right? He has 2 catches for 0 yards because those 2 passes have been screen passes and they just get blown up. Lewis Bond has been on the other end of a bunch of screen passes that have been blown up. It's just not working. The downfield passing has been okay at times, but it's not been consistent. And what BC's offense really needs, and I think it's going to be when Castellanos comes back, is the short to intermediate stuff. We've seen Castellanos do things with his legs. He's still pretty good there. The defenses are queuing in a little bit more on him, but what will get them off of that is if he starts scrambling and being able to throw it a little bit more. 7-8 yard passes that guys like Lewis Bond or even Jaden McGowan, who hasn't done nothing, would be able to move with their legs. That needs to happen more. I'm also a little concerned with the offensive line. You have 2 guys that I think are playing hurt right now. Logan Taylor, who says he's fine, but he missed all of summer, and Jude Bowery. And if you've watched him, you watched him at the game last week, you watched him at Michigan State, he comes off the field constantly hobbling. And there's clearly something going on there. I don't know what it is. He just looks hurt. So you get those 2 guys hurt. Jack Conley, I looked like he got yanked last game to put him for Dwayne Alec in for him. The offensive line isn't bad, but it's such a drop-off from last year that your power running game isn't as consistent until later in the game than it has been. And what I mean by that is when you watch the power running game, the first half of most of these games are just not going anywhere. But eventually it does what it's supposed to do, which is to wear down defenses and get the ball, 7-8 yards a clip. It just takes a while. You need to be able to open some holes early to make a few more explosive plays or bigger plays, so that when it becomes more of that grinding part, you've already gotten, some yards going. I think this offense is gonna, if it's gonna click, it's gonna have to click with Tommy Castellanos. That's my opinion here. Not a knock on James here again, but I think there is much more that this offense can do when he's there, that he's going to be able to put up more points. And Virginia, when we'll talk a little bit about them in a moment, you're going to have to put up points. You can't just go back there and hope to win a 20-point game. You got to be able to slow them down and put points on the board as well. There's been some positive signs on this offense. I loved seeing Jerron Bradley get back into this thing. He's had 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's as I said all summer, he's very, very good. And getting him open, more so than Reed Harris, I think, in the end zone for in those red zone trips is going to be that's a big thing that you have right there. You need to use it more. And we saw Grayson James do it. Let's see if Tommy Castellanos can do it too. So there's a bunch of different things, whether it's the running attack, just not getting going, the passing attack, which we've seen okay against Missouri. They look pretty good. We saw it really good against Duquesne, but that doesn't really count. And then against Michigan State, for half it was okay. And then last week it was a train wreck for most of the game. It just wasn't good. We're gonna have to wait to see again. Tommy Castellanos. That's like, you know what's funny? I do my work for 247, and the 247 UVA writer Jackie Francelli, who we've talked to last year, she was talking to me, and she's like, we're gonna do back and forth questions. I'm like, I mean, everything this week kind of turns on whether Tommy Castellanos is playing. If he doesn't play, you get that feeling in your gut that this game could be really tough. Any game right now without him is going to be tough. But if he plays, you're feeling pretty good. So I think all of Eagles Nation is waiting until Tuesday. And I'm going to shout out to Kevin Stone of Rivals. He's the guy that writes for this other site that one of my competitors. He's a great guy, though. He's going to be the guy at practice tomorrow, bright and early. I'm going to be watching. I might even have his Twitter handle on alert to see if he tweets it out right away, because that's what everyone's waiting for. The offense improving, what they're going to be able to do, the outlook for Saturday. It all depends on whether Tommy can play. If Tommy can play, you guys are feeling good. We're all feeling good. And I would imagine if that's the case and they find out right away, that Vegas odds going to go way down. I think it'll probably go more in favor of Boston College. Now, in our final segment, let's talk about Virginia, a team that Boston College needs to beat to improve to 5-1. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Hey, I may not be the best at giving you guys advice for FanDuel wagers. One thing I have been very accurate on is betting against the Patriots. I said last week, I think the odds were 10.5, and I said the Patriots are going to get smoked. They didn't get smoked, but they certainly did not cover 10.5. If you followed me on FanDuel, you would have been a happy camper. You'll get yourself started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. They got college sports. They got the NHL. They've got, player props. It's all there. I was looking at Monday Night Football. They had stuff on the Lions. I was looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, anytime touchdown bonus, and parlays. And the part that I love about what's going on with the football season, every single time I log in, they have parlay bonuses. So for Saturday's game, again, I've been hitting them good this week. I did a 3-way parlay and I nailed it. I had Bama beating Georgia. I had Illinois covering against Penn State. And I had a third one that's completely blanking right now. I had all three of those, but then I had I think it was like a 50% parlay bonus, which is this great thing that they have on FanDuel. And I won, and it went over that. So it was really cool. You can check those out on FanDuel as well. Get that $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. We're wrapping things up here. And once you're done here, check out Locked On ACC, hosted by Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They're still kind of low on BC, so let them have it. Let them hear it and hear what they have to say, because I'm sure they still don't like what BC is doing, but it is what it is, right? Well, Boston College plays Virginia coming up on Saturday. This is a battle of a 4-1 BC team against a 3-1 Virginia team. Virginia has beaten 3 teams. They beat Richmond 34-13. They barely beat a god-awful Wake Forest team, probably the worst team in the ACC. They lost to Maryland 27-13, and they beat Coastal Carolina in a good game last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. So they were coming off a bye. And it's going to be, if Tommy can play, it's going to be a battle between two elusive quarterbacks that are very good at improvising. And that's Anthony Calandria, who we did not see last year, versus Tommy Castellanos. Now, Calandria has thrown for 1,000 yards with 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And he's also mobile. He's run for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you got a guy like him. And as Mitch Wolf would always say, he's got a little bit of chaos in him. He makes, some great plays, but he also makes a few boneheaded plays, which kind of what Tommy does too. Now, the big thing that I look at when we look at what Virginia can and can't do is their defense. Defense is better than last year, but they still have allowed 30 points to Wake Forest, which I don't know how you do that. You allowed 27 points to a pretty good Maryland offense, and they let up 24 points to Coastal Carolina. So they can let up some points. They've averaged 23.5 this season. This team is better than they were last year. I think that's clear. When BC had to come back and win by a field goal by Liam Connor, that was the game where they score. It was Tony Muskett that was their quarterback. That Monmouth transferred. He's still there. He's their backup, and he threw that last minute Hail Mary for a touchdown at the end of the half. I was there as a fan last year for that game, and that was brutal. But they came back and won that one. That was also a game. I think Thomas Castellanos had like 2 fumbles or an interception and a fumble. There was a bunch of turnovers, but they cleaned it up in the second half. What I'm saying is that Virginia team almost beat BC. This team's even better in their home. So it's going to be a good one. This is going to be a fun matchup for Boston College. Would I put Boston College as a favorite? I get like everything right now. Is Tommy playing? That's going to be our theme for the week. Hey, is Tommy playing? We don't know right now. So am I going to say they're a favorite? I can't say that yet. I'm not. If it's Grayson James playing, I would not put them as a favorite. Wouldn't do it yet. Because if they go out and futz like they did last week against Western Kentucky for 3 quarters, they're going to lose. Maybe he figures it out and gets going better, but it'd be his first road game in Power 5. So I imagine he would probably regress right back to where we saw last week. So I think that's what we're all going to be watching for. So maybe that's the name of this episode. What's going on with Tommy? What's going on? Because we're all in this like holding pattern in terms of our expectations for next week. Virginia though, they're good. They're a good enough team that I think they could cause some problems. They got Malachi Fields still, who has 349 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. They got 3 guys with 2 touchdowns apiece. And they still got Kobe Pace as their lead, one of their lead running backs, along with Xavier Brown. What we're going to do is later this week, we're going to be joined by a UVA podcast. I totally forget the name of them, but we'll see them soon, and I'll tell you more about them later. We'll also have Mitch Wolf on Friday. I will do a postcast on Saturday. You know what's really funny? I met a reader of our show this weekend, and he told me, he goes, AJ, when I heard that there was a daily Boston College podcast, he was like, I had to follow everything you did, including my work at Eagle Insider. He goes, that's dedication. And that's what I'm doing here. I will give you more dedication about Boston College sports. So thank you all who have followed along. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check out my work at Eagle Insider and check out our Eagles Nest. I've been chatting with a lot of people on there. I'm going to chat even more. I promise I'm going to continue to get better at that. And I hope to see you all here again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.